Have you ever heard of being destined for something bigger? Have you ever wondered why every time you think you have found love, something happens that removes the right person at the wrong time? Maybe you wondered, why do I really? Why can't I live a stable love story like the others? But today I tell you a truth that nobody has ever had the courage to reveal to you. If you are one of the chosen ones, you will never live a love like everyone else. It is not bad luck. It is no coincidence. It is a divine design. God separated some for a higher fate, and this means that their path in love will never be simple or conventional. Jesus Christ himself said, "Many are called, but few elected." Matthew 22:14. If you are among those few, your sentimental life will follow a completely different path from that of ordinary people. And this is because love for a chosen one cannot be a distraction, but it must be support. Many seek love to fill a void, to feel complete. But those who have been chosen by God cannot afford to be linked to someone who removes him from his mission, because every relationship that has not wanted to God will end, and every link that is not aligned with your destiny will be broken, no matter how much you try to hold it back. This is the reality that nobody tells you. Today we will explore why people who enter your life often go away. Because every love that seems perfect ends without explanation. And above all, you will discover what type of love God has really prepared for you. I assure you that what you are about to listen will change your way of seeing love, and will help you understand that nothing of what you experienced was a mistake, but a preparation for something much bigger. Stay with me until the end, because on this journey you will find answers that the world will never give you. And if you believe that God has a plan for you, write in the comments, "I am ready for the truth," and prepare to discover what nobody has ever told you. There are questions that repeat themselves in the heart of those who walk with God. Why can't I find a stable love? Why does each relationship seem to move away when I start to believe it? The truth is that some are not called to live any love, but a love that transcends the human. A love that does not bend to the rules of the world, but that aligns with divine design. Jesus Christ himself said, "You have not chosen me, but I chose you." John 15:16. If God has chosen someone on a special path, his sentimental life will also follow a path different from that of others. It is not a question of bad luck, nor of inability to love. It is a deliberate separation, so that the chosen one does not lose in relationships that would divert him from his mission. It is difficult to accept it, because society teaches us that happiness is linked to the presence of a partner. That romantic love is the highest point of human realization. But the Bible shows us another perspective. Let's think of Paulo, a man of great faith with a powerful call, who chose not to get married to devote himself completely to the mission. It was not for lack of opportunity, but because he understood that his fate was greater than an earthly love story. And how many today are in this same situation without understanding why? They feel a void. They believe they are alone. But in reality, they are under the protection of God, who is preserving them for something bigger. Those who have been chosen by the Lord often experience loves who fade without explanation, deep bonds that seem to break without reason, and every time the same question, what am I wrong? But if we look with spiritual eyes, we see that it is not about errors, but of divine interventions. Sometimes God closes doors that we continue to try to open, because he knows that behind them there is no blessing, but only distractions and deviations from the path that has traced for us. "Since my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor your ways are my ways," says the Lord, Isaiah 55:8. The chosen one cannot be satisfied with a mediocre love, of a love that chains him instead of freeing him. His soul is made for something higher, a bond that brings him closer to God, not that you drag him away. For this, many relationships stop abruptly because the other person was unable to support the light that the chosen one brings within himself. "You are the light of the world," Matthew 5:14, and they do not all endure such an intense light. Some choose to move away because the presence of the chosen one highlights their shadows. Accepting this truth is not easy, but it is necessary. Faith requires confidence in the divine plan. even when we do not fully understand its details. God does not remove anything without returning something better. And if true love has not yet arrived, it is because it is not the time, or because there is still a journey to go before you can receive it. And so, those who are called to a bigger mission must learn to walk without leaning against anyone, confiding that when it is time, the right love will come. But until then, the journey continues. Not all connections are destined to last. Some relationships arrive in our life to teach, others to fortify us, and some simply to remind us that true love is not a passenger feeling, but a bond that is rooted in God. The Bible shows us many stories of men and women who, despite their love, were separated from fate because their mission was greater than their union. Let's think of Moses. Raised in the home of the Pharaoh, he could have built a stable life there, but God had a higher plan for him. He could not remain linked to a place that was not destined to be his promised land. And the same goes for those who have been chosen for something bigger. He cannot stay in a love that holds him down, who distracts him from the mission. God separates certain people not because they do not deserve love, but because they must not distract themselves from their journey. When someone has a fate marked by the Lord, every aspect of his life is under divine guidance, including love. And if a love is not aligned with God's plan, it will be removed, however painful it may seem. Everything cooperates for the good of those who love God, of what they are called according to his drawing, Romans 8:28. It is easy to say to believe in God's plan when everything is fine, but when we find ourselves in front of a farewell, are we ready to say, "Lord, I trust you"? We often try to hold back what God is trying to remove, for fear of being alone, for fear of not finding something better. But if God is our shepherd, he will always lead us to the right pasture, to the right time. A love that removes us from our call is not love, it is an obstacle. A love that distracts us from prayer, that turns off our faith, which brings us away from the Bible and from the presence of Jesus Christ, is not the bond that God has prepared for us. Who loves the father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Matthew 10:37. If this applies to the family, how much more does it apply to romantic love? When it comes to love, our human nature leads us to believe that it all depends on us, on our choices, on our efforts, on our prayers. But the truth is that if God wrote our story, there is nothing that we can accelerate or change with our will. Let's think of Giuseppe, sold by his brothers, separated from his house, unjustly, imprisoned. If he had remained where he was, if he hadn't been torn from his previous life, he would never have come to the position of governor of Egypt, thus saving many lives. How many times God separates us from something because it has a bigger plan for us? Accepting that fate has a role in love means trusting God even when we do not understand his plans. It means believing that if someone has been removed from our life, it is not a loss, but a protection. And above all, it means remembering that true love is not an obstacle but help on the way. When the right time is, when the chosen one has accomplished what he has to do, God himself will bring a love to his life that will not be a weight, but a wing that will help him fly higher. But until then, there is still a lesson to learn. Whoever has been called by God for a bigger mission know what it means to lose people without an apparent reason. Deep relationships which seem to have strong roots suddenly dissolve like dust in the wind. The love that seemed safe is transformed into a memory, and the heart is filled with questions. Where did I make a mistake? Why does God allow this? But if we look with spiritual eyes, the answer is clear. Some cannot walk next to the chosen ones because they are not ready to support the weight of their call. Jesus Christ himself faced the detachment, and we see him clearly when many of his disciples abandoned him because they could not understand the truth he brought. Since then, many of his disciples pulled back and no longer went with him. John 6:66. Detachment is not a punishment, it is a divine selection. The energy of those who are chosen by God is transformative. He cannot remain close to those who are not ready for change. Some feel attracted by the chosen one, fascinated by his light, but when they realize that being next to him requires growth and sacrifice, they flee. Not everyone is willing to be put to the test, Not everyone wants to face their shadows. This is why certain relationships end so suddenly. The truth that the chosen one brings with it is too intense for those who are not ready to welcome it. The apostles of Christ also lived this process. Peter, who deeply loved Jesus, denied him 3 times for fear of the consequences of following him. But what differentiates those who are really destined to walk with the chosen one is the will to return, to recognize the truth and embrace it, as Pietro did after the resurrection. Accepting the detachment as part of the path requires a profound faith. It is easy to want to hold back who we love, but the truth is that we cannot force someone to stay if God has decided otherwise. If therefore the Son will make you free, you will be truly free. John 8:36. This means that freedom is a divine gift, and no relationship can be forced without consequences. Those who cling to a love that is no longer wanted by God are opposing His plan. When God separates, it is because He is preparing something better. How many times do we try to recover a finite relationship to make something work that God has already closed? The truth is that if it had been the right person, there would have been no fight but peace. The detachment is a painful but necessary test. It serves to strengthen trust in the divine plan, to teach that true love does not hold back, but elevates. If a relationship breaks, it does not mean that love was not real, but that it was not destined to last. God takes people from our life for 2 reasons, either because they are an obstacle or because they have already accomplished their purpose in our journey. We look at Job. He lost everything: family, friends, material goods. But in the end, God returned him double. The Lord blessed the last years of Job more than the first in Job 42:12. If God allows a loss, it is because He is preparing something bigger. The key is not to resist. The more the chosen one clings to what God is removing, the more he will suffer. But those who accept the detachment with faith, with the certainty that everything is in the hands of God, will discover that loneliness is not a void but a sacred space of preparation. And in this space, the chosen one will learn the most important lesson. The love that really matters does not come from another person, but from God Himself. Only those who understand this truth are ready for the next step on the spiritual path. Solitude is not a condemnation, but a call. It is a sacred time, a phase in which God separates the chosen one from the noise of the world to refine His mission. When you are alone, you are forced to look inside, listen to the voice of God without distractions. Jesus Christ also lived this experience. Before starting His ministry, He spent 40 days in the desert, far from everything and everyone, in an intimate connection with His Father. Matthew 4:1-2. This teaches us that those who are chosen for a special journey must go through seasons of solitude, not because it is unwanted or refused, but because God is preparing for something that only a few can support. Many fear solitude because they see it as a void, but the real void is to be with someone who is not destined to walk with us. How many people remain in relationships that turn off their light, just for fear of being sun? But God calls us to a greater love, a love that does not depend on another person, but that comes from our communion with Him. But whoever unites the Lord is a single spirit with Him. 1 Corinthians 6:17. This means that no one is truly only when it is in communion with God. The problem is that many seek human love to fill the void that only God can fill. And so they find relationships that end up bringing them even further from their true essence. Being alone allows you to develop a love that goes beyond need, beyond emotional dependence. When the chosen one understands that his identity is not defined by a relationship, but by his link with God, he stops seeking in the other something that only the sky can give. We look at the example of Elijah. After a period of great proof and persecution, God sent him to the desert and spoke to him in silence. Not in the wind, not in the earthquake, not in the fire, but in a delicate whisper. 1 Kings 19:11-12. This is the heart of solitude, a place where God speaks in a low voice and only those who are willing to stop can listen. The loneliness of the chosen one is not a weight, but a freedom. It is the possibility of living according to one's mission, without compromise, without bonds that suffocate the fire of faith. Those who have been called for something great cannot be satisfied with mediocre love, of a relationship that does not feed its spirit. You are not in the world, but I chose you from the world. John 15:19. Being chosen means being separated, being put aside for something higher. And accepting this separation with faith is the key to understanding that loneliness is not a punishment, but a gift. But God is a God of love. And those who totally abandon themselves to His will finds that loneliness does not last forever. When the right time is, when the chosen one has fully understood its value and purpose, love will come, and it will be a different love. A love that will not be an anchor, but a wind that pushes forward. The right love will not oppose the mission, but will walk next to it, strengthening the path. But until then, the chosen one must accept his season of solitude as part of the process. The chosen one must not pursue love. He must not seek him desperately, nor cling to relationships that move him away from his mission. The right love will come at the moment established by God, without struggles, without confusion, without chains. Too often, in the desire to find a partner, many bind themselves to people who are not aligned with their spiritual journey, and the result is always the same: suffering, disappointment, loss of direction. But the writing is clear. Everything has its time and everything has its moment under the sky. Ecclesiastes 3:1. If God has planned a love for the chosen one, it will come exactly when it will have to arrive, neither before nor after. The love that comes from God is not a source of anguish. It is not a weight to carry on the shoulders. It is a love that walks next to it, not in front, not behind. It is a union that brings peace, growth, spiritual expansion. Let's think of Adam and Eve. God did not give Adam a wife immediately, but before He let him live, work, discover his purpose. Only after everything was ready did He create Eve as a suitable help to him. Genesis 2:18. This teaches us that the chosen one must first find out who he is. He must first take root in his call, before being ready to receive the love that God has prepared for him. In the world, we see people who hurry to enter relationships driven by the fear of staying alone. But the chosen one knows that his life is guided by God, and therefore he must not fear. The right soul will come, and when it arrives, there will be no need to force anything. The Lord will provide in Genesis 22:14. If God provides the food of the birds of the sky, will not also provide for the right companion for those who have been chosen for a higher destiny? In the time of waiting, the chosen one must not complain, nor fall into the trap of despair. Instead, he must use this time to grow, to strengthen himself, to become the person that God has called him to be. Only those who are complete in God can live a love that elevates. An empty heart seeks in the other something to fill, but a heart full of God overflows, and the love He shares is not based on need but on communion. The wait is not a period of suffering but a phase of preparation. And who understands this stops asking when love will come, and start asking, how can I prepare myself to receive it? Until then, the universe will continue to test the ability of the chosen one to let go of what is not aligned with its path. Every wrong relationship that ends is an act of mercy of God. Every closed door is a protection, and those who totally entrust themselves to God without anxiety, without fear, will see the divine plan manifest itself in the perfect time. Because true love is never a struggle, but a revelation. And the chosen one, when he is ready, will recognize him without any doubt. The chosen one is not intended for a love that chains, but to a love that frees. Every detachment, every interrupted relationship, every solitude lived are not punishment but protections. God does not remove anything without reason, and every door that closes is a clear signal that the path must continue. The life of those who have been chosen does not follow the rules of the world, but those of the sky. In fact, my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor your ways are my ways. Isaiah 55:8. Those who are intended for divine love cannot be satisfied with earthly ties that retain it in mediocrity. True love is never a prison, but shared freedom. It is not a constant struggle to be understood. It is not a weight that breaks the spiritual path. It is a meeting that elevates, a union that reflects the light of God. But in order to receive it, the chosen one must first become the strongest version of itself. He must embrace loneliness as a growth phase, learn to let go without fear, and understand that every farewell is part of a larger design. The Bible shows us examples of men and women separated from their initial plans because God had something better for them. Giuseppe was removed from his family. Moses had to leave the Palazzo del Faraone. Ruth lost his husband before finding his true mission, and every time behind the loss, there was a reward. The Lord gives, the Lord takes away. The name of the Lord is blessed. Job 1:21. This is the heart of the journey of the chosen one. Trust God even when everything seems a mystery. Path continues, and whoever has been called by God must be sure that nothing in his life is random. Every lost love, every tear paid, each closed door served to lead him exactly where it must be. And when the right time arrives, the love that God has prepared will be revealed, without struggle, without pain, without chains. Because true love does not come to complete, but to walk together. Until then, the chosen one must continue with faith without fearing loneliness, without chasing love but letting God write his history, because those who trust the Lord know that the best is yet to come. Now that you have discovered this truth, you can no longer look at love in the same way. God never abandoned you. He never denied you love. On the contrary, he protected you from what he could have distracted from your destiny. Every detachment, every relationship that did not last, every solitude you have lived had a purpose, preparing for something bigger. And now I want to know from you, have you ever lived a relationship that seemed perfect but ended without reason? Have you ever felt that God was closing doors in your sentimental life? Write your experience in the comments, because your story can help others who are going through the same test. If this message spoke to your heart, sign up for the channel and activate notifications, because here we continue to reveal profound truths that can transform your life. And don't forget to share this video with those who are looking for answers. Maybe God wants to use you to open someone's eyes. And now, if you want to find out what are the signs that God is sending you to show you your true destiny, watch the video that appears on the screen. Don't miss this revelation. See you there. God bless you.